let's make an offer. And we offered $10,000, and we now own this building. The city owns this building. The plan at the time we made the offer was to bring it down and add parking. We haven't taken any steps to do that yet, but that was the plan when we decided to make an offer for it. So I expect that will happen soon. Again, I don't know any of the history of the building. I hope it's not historically significant, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay, now, I wanted to talk about trees also briefly. This is a picture of Greenville, South Carolina. Now, the trees, that is the issue I hear about more than anything else. Where are the trees? For God's sakes, how long does it take to plant trees? My very first meeting when I was sworn in as a commissioner, before I even had that meeting, I had 25 people say, please get us the trees back downtown. So the first meeting I said, hey, let's plant some trees. And luckily, the other two commissioners straightened me out and said, you don't just start willy-nilly planting trees. You got to have a plan. You got to have trees that work. We cut down the old trees for a reason, because a lot of downtown building owners hated them. They had birds everywhere, bird poop on everyone's cars. They dropped seed pods all over the place. So they said, you have to design this carefully, choose the right trees. So we hired a consultant. He has designed a plan for us. We were hoping to have them have some planted in the spring. However, we all decided, all the commissioners said, let's do it right. Let's make sure we have electrical there so we can string Christmas lights in the trees. Let's have a watering system. However, that is not the easiest thing. We thought there was going to be a pretty slick way to do it. There's not. So I think we're at the point now we're saying, let's just move forward with the trees. We'll find a way to water them, because to have to cut up all the sidewalks to run a watering system under them is just prohibitively expensive, and we don't want our sidewalks cut up. So I would like to see trees planted this fall. I know the other commissioners would. We voted to plant some like back in May, but then by the time we realized we couldn't do the watering system, it's the middle of the summer. Everybody says, don't plant trees in the middle of summer, you'll lose them. So fall is coming, that's the time to plant trees. So I'm asking you if you would volunteer to write a check for $500 to buy a downtown tree. That would be a wonderful thing, because the city budget is very tight. We'll try to find the money somehow, but we frankly don't have it. So I'm told you can write a check to the Independence Community Foundation, so it's tax deductible, and just designate on there for downtown trees. And we're really hoping to get some trees planted in the fall. Knock on wood. The sign project, at the same time we hired the consultant to look at trees, we also talked about signs. Our consultant that we hired months ago, Roger Brooks, I guess a year ago now, said, you have to have better signage. We have thousands of cars driving through Independence every day. They don't have a clue what you have to offer. So he came up with an excellent plan. He identified sites around the city we needed to identify with signs, a plan for where the signs should go, how big they are, what they look like. You know, when somebody's coming from the south, you want them to see certain things. When they're coming from the west to the east, and so on. Has come up with a beautiful plan. However, it costs money. So the total system, he says, a low estimate of $200,000, a high of $277,000. Frankly, that's not in the budget. We hope to do that. All the commissioners like the plan and want to do it because we think it will really get people to stay and see Independence, make the city more attractive. But we do not have it in the budget, so we have no plans to move forward with this right now. But we do have it in mind, and I hope it's something we'll be working on again soon. I did want to mention the movie night again that Lisa mentioned. This is amazing. It was a courtesy of Aaron Heckman and Andy McLennan. They said, we need to do something like this, so by God, let's just do it. And they started doing it. And it's incredible. My wife and I go around and knock on doors and ask if we can borrow people's kids to bring to the movie, because we feel funny going down there without kids. So one night we had like 12 kids. And Larry, I'm sure you all know Larry McHugh, the man behind the camera here. But Larry was there at the last one. He couldn't believe what he was hearing, so he took a few clips. Can you kill the rest of the lights? It's just a 1-minute clip, and it starts off, they had kind of a karaoke. The little girls all show up in costume, and they're singing the song, Let It Go. You won't recognize the song, but when you hear the singing at the beginning, they're singing Let It Go. Biggest, newest outdoor screen in southeast Kansas. It's amazing. Free popcorn. See where I'm hanging out there. And the limo. The limo bringing the stars. Thanks, Lisa. That was for you, Larry. That's a great video. Thank you so much for doing that. It's really just an amazing outing. You have to come, even if you don't stay for the movie, come down at 8 o'clock and just see the fun. There's hundreds and hundreds of kids. We had 250 glow-in-the-dark bracelets, and they went very quickly. And we got some amazing face painters, and it's just an absolute wonderful mob scene. So, speaking of great big mobs downtown, that seems like a logical time to talk about a plaza. It's something that, again, Roger Brooks brought up. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, that's not a bad idea. We need a focal point downtown, somewhere where we can gather for community movies and farmers market and things like that. Our consultant came up with several concepts. This is the space right behind Animes and Radio Shack, Taco Bell right here. You know, we took a building out here, so that's the most logical spot. But again, nothing is set right now. Nothing's even really planned. But we have a bunch of people that are looking at different options. This is, just as an example, this is one that was copied from another city. That's not designed for our space. But a lot of cities have said it's the best thing they've ever done, to build a downtown plaza where people gather with some, you know, it doesn't have to be permanent buildings. This particular one has temporary shelters they put up. You know, there's a stage for the band, a place for farmers market, all kinds of events. So something to be thinking about, something I'd like to see us work toward down the road sometime. And that's my last slide. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. And I just want to say a huge thank you. Leonard Kaflish is in the room as well too, and Fred Meyer is not able to be with us this morning, but I want to thank our city manager and our 3 commissioners for their time and for investing in our community. Because if we didn't spend money on our community, we're not going to be progressive, and we're not going to move forward, and all these great things are not going to continue to happen. So on behalf of the chamber, I say thank you to both of you for your investment in the community and for spending money on independence. So now it's time. We know we've heard from the city, and we know everything that's going on within the city, but now it's time to meet 2 new faces of Independence, 2 great guys that are living in Independence. One was raised here in Independence and has moved back, and the other is just a newbie to Independence. So with that, I'm going to welcome Aaron Schrader, who is the new owner of Independence Cinemas, and he is also the very generous contributor of all the movie popcorn that just flies out to during movie night, and we appreciate his community support already of Downtown Movie Night, and in return, we're all going to go buy movie tickets so that his movie or his theater is hugely successful. So with that, welcome Aaron.
Thank you, Lisa. I get lots of questions. A lot of it's, who am I? Where did I come from? Because I was never a real outgoing person when I did live here. But I graduated from IHS in 2002. Right after that, joined the Kansas National Guard, moved to Pittsburgh, started going to school. I got married. Around 2005, I deployed to Iraq, came back, lived back in Independence for a short while. I worked at the cement plant. At the time, my brother and father also worked there. Decided to go back to school, moved back to Pittsburgh for a while. I was kind of in and out of part-time, full-time, because at the time I had a wife and 2 kids. I was trying to support them, so I worked as an electrician, then on and off. Deployed to Afghanistan and did that for a while. When I got back, I was in flux for a few months, because then I went to Alabama for a year and a half, where I was studying to become a helicopter pilot. I'm a helicopter pilot for the Kansas National Guard, Blackhawks. And as soon as I got done with flight school down in Alabama, I moved back to Independence. My parents have since moved away. My brother moved to Kansas City, but my wife's family, they are all pretty much centralized in this area. So it made sense, and I actually do like the town. I wanted to come back. But I moved back here, it was, I think, March last year. And I got a job working somewhere, I won't say where. And one day I was coming back from drill weekend in Topeka, and I was driving home, and I was just like, man, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. Hey, I know everyone probably has those feelings. So about that time, I was like, you know what, I'm going to call B&B Theaters and see if they'd sell that movie theater. And believe it or not, they were willing. They were open-minded. And that started let's say that was May of last year when I made that phone call. And I just took over in June, so that took 13 months from that initial phone call to them handing me off the keys. And people asked, a lot of people questioned, it was like, I didn't even know it was for sale. It was because they weren't advertising. I made the phone call. So if anybody's, sometimes you make a phone call, you'll be surprised about the results you'll get. But, and also, a lot of people didn't know this, my dad was actually interested in buying that theater back in 2007. He made the same phone call, saw that they were willing and interested, but he didn't, it was too much for him to tackle. But so, let's say 8 years later, 10 years later, I decided it was for me. I'm sure people have noticed, if you've been in the movie theater here recently, I've been making some slow changes, just some cosmetic things that are kind of cheap, I guess, is the word I'm looking for, kind of get things started slow. But I do have plans for the theater. I didn't watch the video of Roger Book's report, but I did read through it. I read through the digital form of it. And one thing that, besides signage, besides beautifying downtown, one thing he said that really stuck with me was if the local citizens don't even want to come to it, then why do we expect people from out of town? That really stuck with me, so I got to thinking about it. Years ago, 2007-ish time frame, when I was still living in town, and my father and I consistently, when we were big moviegoers, loved going to the movies, we would actually travel to Parsons or we'd go to Bartlesville. We didn't come to the independent cinemas because we didn't like it. We weren't happy with the setup, and I remember that. Now, they have taken some steps since then by going to all digital projectors and such and doing the 3D movies. But I know that at that same time frame, there had to be other independent citizens that had made that decision that if they were going to the movies, it wasn't going to be here. And I'm trying to bring those people back. I'm not going to give them the expectation just because I'm a local owner that they have to come to me. I'm going to earn them back. I'm going to bring them back by giving them a quality experience, something they can't get at the bigger, large-scale cinemas. So that's why I'm making some slow changes, trying to bring more character to the cinema, instead of feeling like a sterile kind of corporate environment. But like some of the upcoming things you'll see, kind of hopefully pretty quick, if the contractors will start getting to work on it, you'll see the painting outside. I'm going to repaint the building, clean it up. I'm going to be switching to all digital signage outside. There'll be, instead of movie posters, paper posters, there'll be actual televisions that project the movie times and the posters. The signs, those marquees and signs will come down. I know they're a big eyesore for anybody who can see them. They're coming down. There'll be some good, clean-looking signs out there. On the inside, going to be an all-digital concession stand sign. Bunch of repainting, all new carpet. I've been working with Nick Cullen there at D-Rail, trying to see about getting some new carpet. Some other things is I've started, I don't know if some people might notice that I brought back what I call it Nostalgia Night, which is bring back some old movies so that, some old classics so we can get people in. Real reduced ticket prices, and I actually had a Nostalgia Night this last Tuesday that was sponsored by D-Rail Commodity and First Oak Bank, and we sold out. There wasn't a seat, maybe a couple seats here and there left in the house, but that's something I would hoping to continue. So, anybody who's wanting to sponsor, I'll do it whether they're sponsors or not, but I'd like to see sponsors. I'd like to see people get involved. Like I said, I'm going to continue that forward in the future. I'm always looking for movie ideas.
I bet my parents would sponsor one if you put the subtitles.
Subtitles?
My dad needs subtitles, and anything off an old movie, he'll sponsor, but he needs a subtitle.
Okay. Just so you know, to meet ADA requirements, I actually do have some electronic devices that provide captions. Like it sits in a cup holder, and it's a little electronic deal that'll scroll the visual words for the. And for the hearing impaired, there are headphones that you can put on to enhance the sound for the movie. So there are some things out there. Tell your dad. But I can provide movies with captions. It's a rare thing to do that, but I'd be willing to look into it. Where was I going after that? She got me distracted for a second. Oh, yeah. So that's all right. All those improvements, I'm kind of like Micky here. I'm hoping those are done by Neil Walla because I want it to look good when the crowds start coming in. But the big improvement I'll be making it won't happen until January, sadly, but it's changing out all the chairs in the movie theater, going from the old cloth, they don't even recline, they're rigid, switching those out for leather recliners. So they're full of reclining. I guess the downside, as some people see it, is that there will be considerably reduced seating. But the theater doesn't sell out that often. There's movies like Jurassic World only come around every so often. And Star Wars this December, I hope will be huge. But it's rare that movies sell out. So I'm going for a more quality over quantity experience. That's why I'm switching to the decorations and the kind of, I've switched, I took to heart what you said about the character first employment hiring, and I've switched the way the B&B has just kind of hired whatever the kids they can get. It was all based on kid referrals. I'm not willing to do that. I'm actually expecting the kids to work for their money and to be good at dealing with customers and being personable. But that's why I'm trying to bring a quality experience so that eventually I'm hoping to lure people in here. Those people that are from Coffeyville that are making the decision, I want to go, let's go to a movie. Well, let's go to Parsons because Independence is awful. Or let's go to Bartlesville. I'm hoping to make those people will start making the decision, let's go to Independence because it is nice. But like I said, bringing the people, I'm hoping that the people who've decided to go elsewhere or come back, the only decision they'll have to make, whether it's go to Independence will be, do I have the movie we're playing they want to watch? And are they sold out? Because I'm hoping that becomes an issue once the new recliners come in. But that's kind of my plans for the future. Do I have time for questions? Do you want to wait? We'll wait. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Aaron. And again, thank you for supporting Independence on the Downtown Movie Night. Okay, Aaron is not going to stay in business unless all of us go to the movie. So no more Red Box for a while. We're all going to go to the movie theater and enjoy all that Aaron has going on at Independence Cinemas. And so welcome back to Independence, and thank you for your service to our country as well. With that, it's time to welcome our last speaker. He is new to Independence. He's the new principal at Independence High School. They'll be starting school on the 17th, I believe, 18th, I believe, but Mario is already hard at work. So with that, please welcome Mario Sherrell.
New leather seats in the theater. I'm going to feel right at home sooner than I thought. Well, good morning. Let me just first say thank you to Lisa and the Chamber for the invitation, but I also want to say thank you to the city. I have felt so welcome. It's been a couple weeks, it'll be 2 months since I moved and lived in Independence. And just the smiling faces, the warm spirits from the post office to the steakhouse, to Walmart, parents in the school during registration. I've just felt really welcome, and I just want to say I appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge my boss that's in the house. You heard from him already. A couple months ago, our superintendent, Mr. Arnold, and 2 members of his cabinet, Deb and Kelly. It's always good to acknowledge the folks that support you on a day in and day out basis. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, the infamous question has been, why Independence? And it's going to be a pretty big culture shock to you. And my first response has been, why not Independence? And just to let you know, it's not that big of a shock to me because I grew up in a small town outside of St. Louis, Missouri on the Illinois side. And I graduated with 39 other students in my graduating class. So just to give you an idea of the small town feeling, and discipline was not an issue when I grew up. Before you got home to get redirected by your parents, when I use the term redirected, I mean a whooping. 3 other people had already got to you before your parents could even get to you because that's how small we were. I just want to give you, and just to give you another idea, technology, 20 years ago when I was in high school, technology and transportation was not then what it is now. So when we were in that small town with a couple hundred folks, if your parents were not going to the big city, guess what? You were not going to the big city. So I know exactly what it is to be, so it's actually a bigger city for me to be here in Independence. How I became a teacher, I just want to share with you briefly an interesting story. I was preparing to go to medical school, and in the fall of that year, I was taking a physiology class to help me prepare for the MCAT. And during this time, right before this time, I needed money because I was staying in Kansas City at UMKC, and so that summer I worked for a program called Kauffman Scholars, awesome program for students that are coming out of 8th grade into 9th grade. They support the kiddos in high school and then pay for every single degree they want to get, bachelor's, master's, and a doctorate at any college they want to if they meet requirements coming out of high school. So I worked for them that summer to support some students that were matriculating into their program. And while I was there, I met a teacher, and on the second day of working under this teacher, she said, "Hey, what are you doing this fall?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting ready for the MCAT." She said, "You work so well with kids, I want you to come and teach my class when I have my baby." So I said, "Sure." I thought it was showbiz talk. "Yeah, have your people call my people. Yeah, we just met 2 days ago. I'll come teach your class." Well, I always wanted to teach since I was at the age of 6. My parents said, "Nope, no respect, no money." It's not like they had a better plan for me, but they just told me I wasn't going to go into teaching. Well, I'm sitting in physiology. That was that summer. Months later, it's September, and I get a call. I step out of class and take the call. It's the high school, Hogan Prep, and they want to tell me that Molly had her baby at 2:36 that morning. And my response was, "Do you randomly call folks when your teachers have their children?" And she said, "No, I have your name and number that you're going to take the class while she's gone." Oh, she was serious? Okay. So I go back in, and I'm nervous, I'm shaking. Class gets out at 2:50. UMKC, if you know, Kansas City's at 51st Street. The high school I was going to is about 64th. It's actually called Myard Boulevard. And so we're right down the street. I told my friend that was in class with me, "Hey, I need you to go with me." We went to the high school. Class got out at 2:50. We got to the high school about 3 o'clock. What happens at most high schools in America at 3? The high school is also dismissing. So as I'm walking out of my car through the parking lot up to the school with hundreds of kids, "Hey, are you new here? Are you joining the football team?" And I said, "I think I'm new here, but I don't know if I'm going to be playing football with you." Walked in, met the principal's secretary, and the next day I was teaching English to high school students. And I'm going to tell you right now, when I played school as a teenager, just mimicking what I saw my teachers do, being with live children that were not that much younger than me was a whole different story. And I had high expectations because I knew what it took for kids that looked like me to succeed in school and how to help them plan for life beyond high school. And so we did. We had a rough 2 months at first, but I had an experience on a field trip, coming home from a field trip with the kids. And I had actually told the lead teacher on that team, I was teaching juniors, honors English and regular English, and I taught a section of great books, American Lit. And so we were coming home from a field trip. After I told the lead teacher, "I do not want to go on this field trip. The kids don't like me in class. I don't like them right now. It's not going to work." She said, "Guess what? You're going on the field trip." I had an experience coming home from the field trip that absolutely changed my life. Kids got to see me outside of class, although they still saw me as their teacher, but I got to connect with them in a different way. I let the guard down and begin to show them that I was human, and begin to tell them and just show them through my behavior that I appreciated them and respected them. And our life changed for the next month that I taught them. And I knew then how important building relationships, how important it is to help kids move to the next level. In that very moment, I knew that my life calling was to be a teacher. So that next week, Molly came back to work right before Christmas break, and then somehow they shared my name, and the next month I was teaching full-time at another school district south in Kansas City, and then the rest is history. Taught for several years, almost 6, interned as an administrator for 2, and I've been an administrator now for the last 4 years. And so that's kind of how I became the educator that I am. It really wasn't planned. It was my life's dream, and I'm just happy to see how God made that all work out. And so with that in mind, I just want to share with you our theme this year at the high school is the 3 R's: rigor, relevance, and relationships. It's really acknowledging how important all 3 facets are to helping students grow, helping them graduate high school, and helping them develop a plan of success once they leave our high school. One thing that's going to be new this year, those of you that are connected to the high school, you're probably accustomed to counselors working with specific grade levels, and then after maybe 10th grade, a new counselor picks up the cohort of students and finishes them off for the last 2 years. We're doing something different. 3 administrators, Mr. Fredrickson, Ms. Hewitt, and myself, we're all going to work with the same cohort of students during their entire 4 years at the high school. And so we're going to be responsible for providing support to them and their families, to making sure these students are graduating high school on time and that they are prepared for their post-secondary option of choice. Also, our counselors are going to do the same thing. They're going to work with the same cohort of students. Instead of building in a transition and getting to know a student and passing them off to another person 2 years into the high school tenure, they're going to stay with that cohort of students to make sure, again, that our students are prepared for their post-secondary option. And so with that in mind, we also need to start looking and making sure that we have the resources available that our kids can actually obtain their post-secondary option. And so we're looking at increasing the number of advanced placement courses, concurrent and dual credit courses, looking at other programs for those individual students that want to go into a trade, whatever that trade may be. We want to make sure that we have those resources there and our systems in place that our students can actually be